Welcome to Tya Talk. I'm using my AirPods today. If you're watching this, let me know how the voice sounds on this, if it's any better than just the computer picking up my voice. I know I have a lot of background noise today, but I don't know which works better. So if you're watching this and you watch all the time, just let me know if these work better instead of using the mic that just comes on the laptop. I want to talk about source, not the source of a microphone, but I want to talk about source. What I refer to as the source of all creation. What many people refer to many different ways. Certainly, the idea of deity, I believe, is rooted in this innate knowing that we have that we are beings of source, and that there is some greater power in the universe that is a creative entity. And that creative entity, from my connection to it, and I've spent my lifetime studying this and going as deep into it and stripping away ego and stripping away the human collective teachings of ego, which I call the matrix, stripping all that away and really discerning what is source. What is that? I was taught that it was God as a child, and really in my childhood religion, God was love. God was not judgment. My childhood religion, I was raised Methodist, and I went to church in the 70s and the 80s because my grandmother forced us to. But it ended up being a really good thing for me. I really enjoyed the church experience. I enjoyed the community and the fellowship and a lot of the aspects of it. And I don't recall all of the fear and judgment stuff in my church. And at some point in my childhood, my aunt and uncle, my entire family were Methodist. My aunt and uncle sort of defected. They had some sort of a religious awakening or whatever you want to call it, and they decided they were going to be Baptists, which is very different than being a Methodist. And I didn't know that. I thought they were kind of two brands of the same thing. And it's at a point later than that, my mother decided to go become a Baptist. And so I started attending the Baptist church a little bit. And it was the biggest entity in my hometown. It was the First Baptist Church of Minden, Louisiana. Biggest building in town. Most of the people that I knew were Southern Baptists. And it was a big social event over there. And sort of the wealthiest people in town were all Baptists. And I just wanted to kind of go see what it was all about. And it was very, very different. There was a lot of judgment. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of you're going to burn in hell if. A whole lot of that. And people were really into that. And what I noticed is that inspired a lot of judgment of other people amongst the congregation. And what I was taught growing up was that we're not here to judge other people, and that the figure of Jesus Christ was a figure of acceptance and love, and saying, hey, you're not supposed to be perfect. You can be sinners, but you're forgiven. And of course, that message was about acceptance of God as Jesus is your Savior and God is your God, of course. But that heavy focus on the what's wrong and who's wrong, and they're all going to go to hell and they're sinners, that type of judgment wasn't present in my religion. So my religious experience as a child was not bad. You would think, being this far away from it as an adult, it would have been something that was more traumatizing, but it really wasn't. But it wasn't enough for me, and it didn't make sense. It didn't add up. So I questioned it, and that was one of the reasons that I moved away from it. But what I see today in Christianity, in other religions as well, is all of this, we are right and you are wrong ideology. And we know that when we start labeling anything as should not be, we suffer in that judgment. We create our own suffering because we lower our vibration. And I know, this is my faith, I know that the reason that we suffer is because source is not that. Source is not a judgmental entity. And if you're looking at it logically, and I have always understood source, I've always gone inward to a source connection that felt like worthiness and felt like protection and love and well-being and abundance and all of those things. That's what got me through life. But when you're separated from that non-judgmental, all creative, all abundant, all expansive vibration of love, then you feel less than. You feel less than that high vibration of goodness and well-being and joy. And all the way down your spiral to a point where you're really suffering in that disconnection. And I find the more we judge, the more we label things as should not be, the more we are creating suffering for ourselves, because we are creating separation from source. The more we judge ourselves, the more we look in the mirror and think, gosh, I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too this, I'm too that. We're suffering in that judgment of ourselves. We're also suffering in the judgment of others. And it's easy to turn on social media these days and see everything that's going on in the world and start saying, gosh, the world is really in trouble. This is a terrible place. It's awful. This shouldn't be. And what are we doing when we judge that way? We are separating ourselves from source. And to go back to the notion of how logical this really is, if you have this creative entity, something designed and created this environment. The trees and the sun and the beings and the food chain and all of that stuff did not just happen. There is intelligence woven into this, obviously. And science is the exploration of that intelligence. There's a whole lot of things they have yet to figure out or agree upon, but that's what science really is. And science is intriguing to me. Some people say that you can either be a person of faith or a person of science, and you have to choose. I don't think so. I think you can be a person of faith, believing in things that have not yet been proven, and choosing to believe, and choosing a belief system that elevates you in your human journey. That's a uniquely human thing, is that we get to choose our belief system. We're not just reacting. The other physical beings in our world are just reacting. And they're not all reacting the same, obviously, but they're just reacting. We get to choose. We get to decide what belief system we are going to plug into, essentially. And we all plug into a belief system. Well, my belief system is that there's so much logic in thinking that, okay, there is this powerful creative energy, and it is expansive, it is abundant, it is regenerative, but it's not judging. So therefore, it's not discerning a preference for our experience in physical. It's not saying you are blessed and you are evil, or you are unlucky, and therefore you're going to have more of a suffering life experience and you're going to have a more joyful life experience. It is allowing us to come here as sovereign beings, operating in a physical vehicle, operating by and large via ego, and allowing our ego to take us on this expansive journey. And I know that Source is not judgmental, because Source allows us to have an expansive journey that can be discerned preferences or not discerned preferences, meaning it can be one of joy and abundance and clarity and well-being, or it can be one of pure suffering. We hear stories of beings that come and live most of their lives, short, long, whatever, in almost pure suffering. And a lot of people will say, well, how can there be a God if that is allowed to happen? Well, that's my evidence. That's logically seeing that Source isn't prescribing a set of circumstances as the right path for humanity. We choose that. And where Tya separates from everything else that I'm aware of is the belief system that there is no such thing as wrong, that there's no wrong way to have this experience, that we expand. And I know that there's certainly branches of spirituality that explore these ideas as well. I'm not claiming to have a monopoly on that, but Tya is the mindset practice that celebrates that. We're not just accepting that, hey, suffering's part of the human experience, it's part of your journey, and you can heal all that stuff. That sounds great. Let's go beyond that into let's celebrate the entirety of the human experience. Let's celebrate the things that we've created in our paths that have caused us some suffering in our lives. Because ultimately, that suffering was the motivator to move us toward a different belief system. And when you've allowed your suffering to move you toward a belief system that is more in alignment with source, then you can really look back and appreciate the suffering. I promise you, I would not be doing, this is my life's work. I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I'm sharing this with all who want to listen for as long as I am drawing a breath. And I love this stuff because I see how it transforms people's lives. And I see what it's done for me. I see that for me, even though I create spinouts and I create things that would definitely create suffering if I didn't have this practice, that every spin out that I have created has done nothing but level me up and connect me even more with source. So I'm not fearing whatever the next spin out is. I'm not fearing whatever the matrix is telling me that I'm supposed to be afraid of. And right now, we are in this amazing time where humanity is becoming so evolved that we are wising up to the matrix. We are understanding that, wait a minute, all of that smoke and mirrors, all of that political stuff and conspiracy stuff and all of those things can be as real as you allow them to be. If you choose to plug into those vibrations, that's going to become reality for you. And it's interesting to me that so few people are there understanding that we create our reality and our belief systems create our reality. So your worldview is going to be a product of your belief system. And it doesn't take much effort to go and explore a little bit what's going on across humanity to see how steeped people are in their belief systems. And they're in the matrix when you are observing their polarity. We're all in polarity, but how are they reacting to polarity? Are they reacting to polarity by by being more divided, allowing it to take their vibration down where they need to be right, and therefore that means someone else needs to be wrong because their ego is demanding it of them? Or are they able to rise above that and rise into a higher vibrational state of being where they're not judging things as should not be? Lisa, it's good to see you on. Different sound quality, but easy to hear me. Okay, thank you for that feedback. Celebrating is more expensive than surviving, Lisa says. Yes, definitely. The expansion that we receive expansion no matter what. Source tells us that. We believe that in the Tya practice, because in your suffering experience, you're expanding as a being just in having the suffering experience, and moving out of the suffering experience creates a whole different level of expansion for your source being eternally, which is the whole purpose of life, the whole purpose of physical environment. But I come on here every week and talk about source constantly, if you haven't noticed, kind of the way Christians talk about God constantly or Jesus constantly, because really everything is that. All the things that we are discerning as a preference are going to be found in our source consciousness, and it's in us, and we're of it. So the joyful days, the appreciation, the abundance, the well-being, the good feeling stuff, whatever that is for you, all of that is found in source. And when we separate ourselves from source, we're going to start experiencing things that are different than that, something less than that, if you will, something lower vibration than that. And we talk about source so much, and we don't talk about abundance as much, even though this is trust your abundance. But that abundance piece is derived in allowing of source. That's why I focus on source so much. Source delivers joy, clarity, and yes, abundance. And not necessarily the matrix version of abundance, not necessarily that 3D version of abundance of all of the shiny things. But it can. It absolutely can. That can be part of it. But you do reach a level of clarity where you understand that all of that stuff, that's just more smoke and mirrors of the matrix. Go get enough stuff and you win the game. Go get enough stuff since there's no such thing as true joy, the world is this awful, evil, terrible place, and whoever claws their way to the top of the stuff mountain wins because you've got the most stuff. But stuff is only going to deliver so much joy. It delivers some, absolutely. And I like stuff. I'm never going to say stuff is bad. I'm never going to say that having beautiful homes and cars and experiences and all that stuff is bad. It's not. It's not. I have beautiful things, and I love beautiful things. But I understand now that those beautiful things in and of themselves don't bring the level of joy that simply being in my source state of being delivers. And the Matrix has created this belief that doesn't even exist. And one of the mechanisms of the Matrix is religion, where that you're almost robbed of that authentic joy and told that it's something that is external from you that you need to worship and obey. And that's not the same level of joy. I understand that the concept of there's a God that loves me and I will be okay as long as I'm obedient and worshiping of God, that's a higher vibration than I'm suffering and don't believe in anything, or I'm suffering and hating myself in the world. That is a higher vibration that does deliver a positive experience for people that are plugged into that. But it's not the same. I've had those experiences. I've had a period in my life where I believed in an external deity and wanted to believe what I was being told to believe, and that there was something out there, and it was helpful. It was certainly a higher vibration than many of the other vibrations that I was experiencing. However, there is no match for the eternal consciousness of abundance and love that is source, and being completely connected to that as a physical being, having this earthly human experience and being so completely connected to that. And you're connected to it when you're in appreciation of everything, void of judgment, void of fear, appreciation of all that is, to feel like you're above it all is tricky. It's interesting, because when you feel that feeling of I'm above all of this, it's not the ego version of being above it as in I'm superior. It's the I am vibrationally above all of these belief systems that are somewhat disconnected from source, but I'm in appreciation of all of them. I am not superior to any of them. I'm simply having a different experience. And they all absolutely serve a purpose in this environment. We are not all equal. We are not all created equal. Certainly, we're not. We're not all here having an equal experience. We're all here expanding. We're all here creating. We're all here creating expansion for source in our experiences. Absolutely, we are. We're equal in that way because we're all here on the same journey. And I promise you, when we cross over back to our completed state of being, I believe that whatever experience was had is appreciated on an equal level, because there's no measurement in the energetic realm. But in the physical realm, we're polarized. In the physical realm, we are about quantity and length of time and experience and measuring wealth and joy and happiness and abundance and all of that stuff. That is part of being physical. And if we were all intending to come here and have the same experience, there would be no experience. If we didn't have a food chain, think of the animal kingdom, how there is a food chain, it's self-sustaining. And there's some animals that eat vegetables and some animals that eat each other. That's just the way that it is. And that's because we're in this self-sustaining, self-regenerating environment that is meant to have a more dominant and more submissive, if you will, aspect to it. And something does dominate and control, if not eat, another being. Or control and even enslave another being. There's plenty of history of that. And there's plenty of histories of leadership in the animal kingdom, and of course leadership across humanity, where one person is dominating another, or one group is dominating another. We see that all around us. That's a natural state of being. But as we evolve, as we become wiser, We want to solve that. We want to get out of that. We want everybody to be able to have an equal shot. And I understand that. That's a very benevolent way to look at things. But there's a difference. And if you're practicing Tya, there's a fine line between discerning a preference for everyone to have a joyful, expansive experience, everyone to be in abundance, and judging the absence of that as should not be. That's the tricky part. Being able to appreciate that most of humanity is suffering in the matrix of fear and judgment, and having that experience and looking upon them and thinking, gosh, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice for more of humanity to learn these tools? Wouldn't it be nice for more of humanity to understand that joy, clarity, and abundance are available to all in source connection? Wouldn't it be nice for people to detune the need, that ego-driven, overdeveloped, in my opinion, very overdeveloped need to label things as should not be? Because the labeling as should not be creates the majority of the suffering on earth, the ongoing human version of suffering. I'm not talking about an animal being attacked by another animal and being in physical pain and judging that physical pain is, I wish I wasn't experiencing this. I'm talking about the enormous suffering that we create for ourselves in the judgment of what we've experienced and what we observe others experiencing. Moving yourself out of that belief system is a magical transformation. It's the keys to the universe. It's the keys to everything. And we know that, and we're practicing that, and we're making that our way of life. Judging less, being able to observe the matrix. And I've talked about doing some training, and I will very soon, on some phases of the Tya practice, just like a spiritual practice. Usually people, it seems like most people I encounter were sort of raised in some sort of a secular religion, and they realized that wasn't really working for them, or they thought it was all bullshit or something of that nature. And they sort of want to be an atheist for a while and just believe in nothing. And then they suffer a little more, and they become seekers of something. There's got to be something to this source thing. I feel it. I know it. I know that there's love. There's intangible things that science cannot explain to me, but I know they exist. So I'm not just going to listen to science. I know there's something else. Those are the people that seek and discover spiritual teachings. We're going to take the judgment, a lot of the judgment and fear and the deity out of this, and we're going to focus on this source idea. And a lot of times, of course, that branches off into countless other things. You always say spirituality is an even bigger tent, I think, than religion as far as beliefs go. And then you can get into this concept of enlightenment. And I find that to still be very ego-driven. Not saying it shouldn't be, but I'm definitely discerning a preference that for me, that seemed very ego-driven. I got into mainstream spirituality when I started sharing the stream with the world. I would go on podcasts, I would go to mixers, I would meet people that are into these things. And I was still finding a lot of that ego-driven fear and judgment of this is the only way, this is the right way, and if you're not doing this, you're wrong, woven into spirituality. And that's when I really started to discern a preference to, let's not even call this spirituality anymore. Let's move it into its own category of pure source, pure universal law, where that judgment of, oh, you're not doing it right, you're not the right brand of spirituality, where we're just appreciating every aspect of the matrix because of what it does for expansion. It's offering expansion in the suffering experience of fear and judgment for those that are choosing to be in it, period. And we don't have to be in it. But in the first phases of a spiritual practice or the Tya practice specifically, it's probably a good idea to shut a lot of that stuff down if it's triggering for you. If you are being triggered back into fear and judgment by being on social media, shut it down for a while. Go do your inner work away from there. Shut down the news cycles. Shut down the things that cause that, so that you can build your strength, your vibrational strength, to go back into the matrix with a new set of tools and a new awareness, where you've detuned so many of your own triggers that you can now play in the matrix and be in the matrix without being of the matrix. That's what we're intending. We're not intending to create a commune of Thyists where we have to separate ourselves from all of humanity and go live on our own somewhere. That separation is not part of this game. That's not going to be part of this. I still want to create a stream center and do live and have people come and visit and do things, but it's sort of like come and visit or watch, on live stream. And I would love to have this place that we can all be, but then go back out into the matrix, go back out into life, and understand that all of the tools of the matrix that are designed to draw us back in, those are well-developed vibrations, and we can all be susceptible to them from time to time. But the more you practice, the more you make the 4 pillars of Tya, the appreciation, polarity, source, and intention, the more you make those 4 pillars your way of being, the more of an enlightening journey you're automatically going to be on. But you're not going to cross a threshold where you are so enlightened that you're no longer human, or that you're perfect, or that you're no longer suffering in any way. It's very different. It's a very different experience. And I've gotten myself all the way out to the leading edge of just being in source consciousness and realize that, wow, if I park myself here, I'm not expanding. I parked myself there last year and ended up creating a literal combustible experience to get myself out of that overly comfortable vibration. And then here I am again, back into this sort of, okay, well-being is everywhere. I'm not wanting for anything. I'm answering to no one. Life is really easy. And what am I going to do with that? Am I just going to sit on my ass all day and do nothing and just be? Or am I going to now get back into the vibration of expanding the Tya practice, sharing it with more of humanity, and really getting it out there, and making it the non-religious mindset practice that I've intended it to be all along, even when I didn't completely know what it was. That's the focus now. So you're going to see a lot of things evolving and changing in our world. And one of the things I'm going to change is I'm discontinuing the Sunday Soul Food. We may bring something like that back in the future. I want to do something like that, but in a physical way with other people, not just me sitting and doing something that I could record anytime. I want the live streams to be more of a live stream event. So we will bring back a weekend event when we actually start having get-togethers and events, and then I'll live stream that stuff, and that's what our weekends will be. But for now, I'm going to shift, and I am instead going to move Tya Talk to Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. So we've been doing this every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. I'm going to shift this on Patreon to Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. And I'm going to bring back Claim Your Power on Thursday afternoons. So not this week, but starting next week, we are going to do Tya Talk every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And we're going to do Claim Your Power on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. And sometime I'll have guests, and sometimes it'll just be me. Sometimes we'll be talking about the practice and discussing it. Sometimes I'll just be sort of preaching it, if you will. But this information oozes out of me. And I do think that there's an experience to be had for everyone to interact in this way and ask questions and share comments and ideas about where you are in your practice. I will definitely always teach Tya. There will be Tya teachings woven into all of it now. I am definitely shifting into a period where I'm focusing. The stream's message is so in me that I do not feel the need to go into trance and channel that way. That may not always be, I don't know. But for right now, I know what the stream's message is. I'm very merged with the stream. And the stream is me, and I am the stream. And the stream is my connection to source. It always has been, that I have created such a connection to that I share it. And in that sharing, and in my desire to create a system for human beings to essentially detune the matrix, that's where Tya came from. That's where Tya Bootcamp came from. It was my intention to create that system, because I do think we need a system, because we are born into a system. It's called the matrix. It's your family's belief system, your cultural belief system. It's your own belief system that you are creating. You're absorbing all of that stuff while you're creating your own manifested experience and your own manifested journey. And you created your own belief system based on how you reacted to what you've manifested in life so far, especially early on. So we all have a belief system. The vast majority were created by default, many of them heavily impacted by culture and religion and government, yes. But we have a belief system nonetheless. We are understanding that we have a belief system and that we want to shape our belief system more in the favor of the things that we want to experience. That's what Tya gives you. And I came to understand years ago that you can create mantras, and you can get crystals, and you can meditate, and you can go into different ceremonies with plant medicines, and there's so many different avenues to achieving this higher level of consciousness. But there's nothing that matches simply allowing the pure natural source connection that already exists within you, period. All those things are great. They all have the power that you give to them. Go have any experience that you want to have. Make it part of your reality. But all of it is doing the same thing. It's detuning your ego and allowing more source. And I have come to understand that you don't need a shaman. You don't need plant medicine. You don't need a religious ceremony or a spiritual ceremony. You don't need to go into a yurt somewhere and have a situation. You don't have to do that. You can do all this stuff. It sounds cool and sounds fun. I've done some of it, but you don't have to do any of that stuff. All the tools that you need already exist within you. That's why Tya is a practice of going inward, using your own natural inner tools that you came equipped with in the first place, not needing any of those things. They're all just tools, but the only tools that you really need are the tools that connect you more with source. Understanding polarity, detuning transgressors, detuning your own ego, detuning the things that lower your vibration and hold you away from your natural source connection, or your source being. That's it. So that's what Tya is, and that's what Tya always will be. We are probably, and in fact, I know that we're going to morph into something that's going to be more community focused. I've been wanting to do this since we started Patreon. I definitely got sidetracked in the last couple of years, just being sort of blissed out in my life. But now I'm more tuned in than ever into making this something that is more like the positive aspects that I remember around religion. The community, the sharing of beliefs, the learning aspects of it, the all of that expansive stuff. I want to be part of this. And if that means, visiting a building and being together physically sometimes, or being together electronically sometimes, I think that's great. It will mean more books. It will mean more teachers and teachings of it. But it's never going to mean rules or fear or judgment. It's never going to mean, having to pay at a certain level to be at a certain level. There's always going to be things in here that we offer that cost money. Absolutely. And, money is a mechanism of our world, and it's going to be part of this for sure. But my intention from day one has been to share this everywhere and allow folks, as their abundance allows, to contribute to the message. That's always been that. And that sounds a lot like religion. But we're not worshiping anything. We're not obeying anything. There's no set of rules to live by. But I'm excited that we are approaching a new chapter now. And I say it last, but if you think about it, we're 5 years into this. As mindset practices go and things like that, 5 years is infancy, right? So, 5 years into this, we are now moving into a phase where I'm ready to expand it. And that is something that I'm challenging myself with. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. As always, this is our last Wednesday Tya Talk. So we're moving to Tuesday starting next week. There will be no Sunday Soul Food. The last one I did was last Sunday, so we're stopping that for now. Like I said, you'll see those come back when we're actually doing live events that we live stream. And for now, the weekday events, we're going to do one in the morning on Tuesdays, and we're going to do one in the afternoon or evening on Thursdays, depending on your time zone. So thank you all for attending, and thank you for supporting this message. And I look forward to interacting with you a lot more in the future. Thanks again.